On North America's East Coast, one little creature is living large. Cute and cuddly, fierce and wild, red foxes have made a home on the back doorstep of the human world. On the jagged coast of Canada's eastern shore, a delicate and diverse ecosystem thrives on the fringes of the continent. Welcome to the Wild, Wild East. Prince Edward Island. Set in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, Canada's smallest province represents less than 1% of the nation's landmass. Its beaches and rural beauty make the island a popular destination for tourists from across Canada and the rest of the world. Charlottetown is the province's capital. Here, over the past 2 decades, one wild animal has abandoned the island's rolling fields for the luxuries of the city life. Red foxes live side by side with humans. Where there's people, there's food. And although PEI may be Canada's smallest province, it's also its most densely populated. Foxes have also made good use of man-made infrastructure. In recent years, dens have begun popping up all over the island. Sheds and decks provide a perfect cover for foxes looking to hide. These man-made structures bring foxes a little too close to people's homes. Many locals see the fox as a nuisance. Some have even taken the issue into their own hands, trapping and killing bothersome foxes. But for the fox, there's high reward for high risk. These sly little creatures have grown adept at evading the human predator. Like it or not, foxes have staked a claim here in Charlottetown's backyard. Across the island, one family has taken up residency right here along the beach. It may not look like much for waterfront property, but it's a perfect home to one family or skulk of red foxes. Hidden amongst the brush and sand is the family's front doorstep. Here, for the next several weeks, adult mature foxes will live amongst their newly born young until the kits are fully grown. It's the beginning of spring, and these fox kits are just a couple of months old. They were born deaf, blind, and toothless, and have a long way to go until they can strike out on their own. Until that day, they require almost constant parental supervision. Mom is the center of the fox family, keeping an eye out for her kits and protecting the den. While Dad spends the day hunting, Mom's top priority for the next several months is rearing up her pups. Thankfully, Mom has some help from another adult female fox. She's the kit's older sister, but really, she's more like an aunt. At the end of last summer, her brothers and sisters went to find mates and establish their own territory. But this aunt decided to stay behind for the winter. It was a hard winter for the aunt. The patch on her side is a sign of mange. The parasitic skin disease is common with foxes. It's extremely itchy, and can cause fur loss. With her mange now on the mend, the ant will look to begin a family of her own once her little brothers and sister are all grown up. Mom happily accepts the help of another female adult fox. These kits are growing up nicely. They're about 6 weeks old and have already shed their brown fur for their distinctive red coat. All grown up, foxes are about the size of a small border collie, weighing up to 9 kilograms. Life is short for the fox. These kits will live up to 5 years on average, so there's little time to waste. The males within the litter will be looking to find a mate and establish their own territory by the end of the summer. Down on the beach, the kits spot a surprise Mom's brought in from the human world. Trinkets like this are a welcome relief to the teething pups. But of course, these artifacts are no match for the fox's scissor-like jaws. These sharp molars in the back of the fox's mouth allow them to break up and digest bones and tough meat. These curious kits have no problem digging up trouble, that's for sure. But under Mom's watchful eye, the kits are free to be kids. It isn't hard to see why some island residents are growing annoyed with the foxes. Many locals are walking around with just one shoe. As the tide crawls in and the day wears on, the family moves up from the beach. For Mama and Auntie Fox, it's a full-time job watching over these hyperactive young'uns. This play fighting is more than just fun and games. These warriors in training are practicing the signature moves of adult male foxes. When protecting their territory, foxes will often come to blows. Foxes fight on their hind legs. They try to tower over one another and then flank their foes. Even at this young age, this fox fight club determines what the social pecking order will be once these kits reach maturity. For now, though, the biggest fights are over a sip of Mom's milk. It may look crowded under there, but this litter of 5 kits is about average. It's not unusual for a vixen to give birth to over 10 baby foxes in a single year. With Mom protecting her kits at the den, off goes Dad to hunt down the family's next meal. Both parents do their share to take care of the kits until they reach maturity. This couple's courtship began over the winter months. Huddled together underground, they welcomed their litter with the coming of spring. Foxes are generally monogamous, but not always. Males may have more than one mate. But these foxes are united by a common purpose. Mom does her duty at the den by protecting the kits, and Dad's responsible for hunting and providing food. In a field behind the University of Prince Edward Island, we catch up with another group of foxes. This skulk has made a home just off the beaten path. Only a month old, these field foxes are a few weeks younger than their waterfront cousins. You can see they still have their soft brown coats. As they wait patiently by the den, Daddy Fox combs his property for food. He has been marking his territory by urinating on the ground. These scent markings are a warning to other foxes to stay away. The best times to forage are in the early morning or late evening. It's cooler then and there are fewer humans around. Dad has made this territory home and laid claim to all the food here. In other words, no trespassers allowed. Suddenly, in the middle of this fox's hunt, an intruder is heard. As a final assertion of his dominance, Dad sprays a scent marking on the ground. From the sidelines, the kits watch closely. It won't be long until they'll need to provide for themselves. After a little searching, the hunt uncovers a tasty meadow vole, one of the fox's favorite treats. In the wild, small mammals, birds, and even insects make up the bulk of the fox's diet. Foxes are extremely possessive of their food and will bury it away in their dens or in caches they tag with scent markings. The sneaky little creatures are keen to quickly hide food away from other nearby animals. There's mouths to feed back at the den. And so, the dad provides. Still getting used to solid food, this little kit can't decide if he should eat this thing or play with it. The tide coming and going each day offers a special protection for our waterfront foxes. Any intruders better know how to swim. Red foxes will dig dens into the sides of hills, mountains, slopes, or simply straight down into the flat ground. Dens are dug inward at a 45-degree angle. They are about the length of 3 sofas. Inside the den, there are 2 main areas, one for food storage and a spot where the foxes can huddle together during the long winter months. Something or someone has spooked the waterfront foxes, and so they're moving to a new home just down the beach. Living close to humans poses many threats to the fox. Occupying multiple dens is a sly evasion strategy. The fox knows this territory like the back of its paw. Back at the field fox's den on the other side of the island, this little kid spots something delicious. Looks like Mom's got a hold of chicken dinner to store away for later. Fox's love for chicken has been getting them into trouble with farmers for centuries. Unaware of the feast hiding back at the den, these 2 kits are practicing sniffing out a meal of their own. Soon, the foxes will begin hunting and foraging together as a family. So, it's never too soon to learn the fox's characteristic pounce. This move will come in handy when the fox is hunting out its own meals. In a couple of weeks, everyone will be responsible for finding his or her own food. But for now at least, most meals are on Mom. Kits nurse for 2 months. Foraging and hunting are essential skills the foxes must master before they're fully independent. Foxes reach adulthood by 7 months. With his siblings still on the bottle, this guy experiments with solid food. Behind his family's back, our little chicken poacher lives up to his reputation. It may be a cliché, but that doesn't mean it's not delicious. But alas, his secret is short-lived, and the other kits run to find out what their little brother's gotten into. Back along the beach, these waterfront foxes have switched to a new den, but their second home is no further from the watchful eye of humans. While there are a lot of perks to living side by side with people, it also presents a danger. People have been hunting the red fox for sport since medieval times. During the Renaissance, it became a noble pursuit, and dogs were bred specifically to run down and kill foxes. Foxes are hunted primarily for their fur, and their bushy tails have been considered a hunter's trophy for centuries. Living close to humans has made the red fox an easy target of derision. Attitudes toward the animal vary throughout time and between cultures. Foxes may be a nuisance, but many islanders enjoy the fluffy little beasts. Currently on the island, hunting and trapping foxes is still practiced, albeit highly regulated. Today, humans remain the fox's greatest predator. With the summer months approaching and the kits progressing toward maturity, it's likely this ant will move on to establish her own family. Though groups of foxes may share a territory, the foxes tend to stick to themselves. Here on the island, where food is abundant, there's less competition for land. Still, they hunt and forage alone, and with the exception of mating and raising their young, they spend the majority of their lives surviving on their own. And so, springtime is a special time of year, when the typically solitary creatures are united by a common purpose, raising their young and ensuring the survival of their species. Nobody knows exactly how many foxes live here on Prince Edward Island today. Researchers are watching 50 dens in and around Charlottetown alone. Those are just the ones we know about. The University of Prince Edward Island has been studying the foxes over the last few years. They put out a call to the community to track fox sightings. In 2 years, they received over 2,500 reports. Like it or not, the fox is here to stay on Prince Edward Island. Across the world and throughout history, foxes have lived at the frontier between the human world and the untamed wilderness. They star in so many folk stories and fairy tales because they're clever and cunning, graceful and sly. Foxes have 1 foot in our world and 1 in the wild, wild East. On North America's East Coast, the raging rivers pump life into the mainland. Hungry cormorants feast on fish swimming inland to spawn. The circle of life and death along the river. On the jagged coast of Canada's eastern shore, a delicate and diverse ecosystem thrives on the fringes of the continent. Welcome to the Wild, Wild East. The rivers of Nova Scotia. These channels carry water, the source of all life, through the province's mainland. This is the Shubenacadie River. It stretches inland to connect the Bay of Fundy and Grand Lake. Millions of fish travel this route each year as they swim upstream to spawn. It's springtime in the Wild, Wild East. Animal life dives headfirst into the river. Whether you're visiting for the season or just emerged from a winter nap, the water's flow brings life to all. But for predator species, the river provides more than water. A fact this muskrat knows all too well. Animals live at different stops along the river. but below the surface, another species is just passing by. Meandering upstream is the American shad. The fish are on a journey from the Atlantic Ocean to the river's source, Grand Lake. Shad spend most of their life in the ocean, but once they mature, they swim upstream into freshwater lakes to spawn. They're what's called an anadromous fish. During this journey, the shad's body goes through an incredible change. Leaving the salt water of the ocean, their gills, lungs, and kidneys transform to allow them to breathe in the fresh water of the river. It is one of the most fantastic and elaborate transformations in the wild, wild East. Fish don't make this journey until they reach maturity, which can take up to 5 years. These big swimmers can grow as long as a human arm. The shad swim from the Atlantic waters of Florida through the Bay of Fundy and then travel upriver to Grand Lake. Once they've spawned, these shad will turn around and head back to the ocean. But there's more than one fish along the river highway. Further up the Shubenacadie, a run of Gaspereaux. They are the American shad's little cousin, about a quarter of the size. Outside of the Maritimes, the fish is called an alewife. But here, in the wild, wild East, it still goes by the name the Acadian people gave it over 400 years ago, Gaspereaux. Another anadromous fish, these guys are traveling the same road upstream to their ancestral spawning grounds. Both the shad and the Gaspereaux possess incredible homing abilities. The fish spawning for the first time this spring have not swum in fresh water for as many as 5 years. And still, their sense of smell leads them up the same river that first gave them life. This is the gateway into Nova Scotia's northwestern river system. The gatekeepers? A colony of double-crested cormorants, eagerly awaiting the fish moving upstream to spawn. Researchers estimate that there are close to 1,000 mature birds that return here each year. That's about 1/3 of the human population on the other side of the harbor. The cormorants flourish at the mouth of the river, thanks to this ample food supply. They return each spring to breed and raise their families. Of the 40 different species of cormorants across the world, the double-crested is the most common in North America. If it were breeding season, you'd see 2 tufts of feathers protruding from the bird's head, like horns. Hence the name double-crested. But the honeymoon period is over, and in each nest, there are mouths to feed. By nesting in large colonies like this one, any one of the 1,000 cormorants here can raise the alarm bell should a predator be seen. Down in the water, a dutiful husband collects seaweed to line the inside of his nest. Above, his wife takes care of some repairs. The unspoken compromise of a cormorant partnership. Both mom and dad share the responsibility of maintaining a nest and raising chicks. The colony's nestlings are between 4 and 7 weeks old, depending on when the cormorant arrived and how soon they found a mate. Most aren't ready to fly the coop yet. Their fuzzy brown feathers aren't equipped for flight. Cormorants can live upwards of 20 years, but the first is by far the most important. To make it through year number 1, it will take a bit of luck, escaping the grasp of unwanted predators. Underneath these waters swim the main ingredient in the cormorant's diet: fish. Fortunately, there's no shortage of those at the mouth of the river. When this causeway was built, it dammed off the mouth of 2 of the 3 rivers that empty into Pictou Harbor. So, any migratory fish returning inland have no choice but to swim right by the cormorants. These man-made obstructions can cause some confusion for the animals of the wild, wild east. This groundhog was just trying to track down some berries and grubs when he found himself halfway across the harbor. And amongst the causeway's rocks, a gull finds a crab. The cormorants like those too, but they prefer fish, and spend a large portion of each day looking for them. They propel themselves underwater with their thick, webbed feet. When they reach striking distance, the cormorant tries to pierce the fish with its hooked bill. Unsuccessful, this cormorant shakes off its defeat. Unlike other aquatic birds, the cormorant's feathers don't repel water. So, after a dip in the ocean, this guy spreads its wings to dry off. This pose is something of a trademark for the cormorant. It's not just unique, it's useful too. A soaking wet cormorant is heavier, sinks faster, and can dive deeper. Stuck in their nest, the chicks rely on their parents to fish for them. Like most birds, cormorants feed their chicks through regurgitation. There's a bit of a sibling rivalry amongst the brothers and sisters. The hungry chicks compete for their parents' attention. And as the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. When the birds are very young, they only feed out of the tip of the adult's bill. It obviously doesn't take them long to figure out there's a whole lot more where that came from. The parents partially digest the food before vomiting it back up. The chicks then feed out of the pouch between the bird's bill and its neck. The nestlings are just on the verge of fledging and need lots to eat during this final stage of rapid growth. They're like hungry teenagers. This time of year, mom and dad fish non-stop to feed themselves and their growing family. The cormorant isn't the only bird living off the fish at the mouth of the river. A bald eagle soars nearby. The cormorants raise the alarm bell. At the top of the food chain, the bald eagle will eat anything it can kill. Right now, it's looking for a cormorant nestling. Mature cormorants can fly and have a better chance to evade this predator. But their young are confined to the nest and at serious risk. Their only protection is their parents, hiding them from the eagle's sharp eye. With the predator flying away, the cormorants can leave their nests and return to the water. This was a scouting mission for the eagle, and a close call for the cormorants. The eagle is an opportunistic hunter, and with so many nestlings of the colony right now, he won't fly far. Still, for now at least, the nestlings are safe. The mouth of the Shubenacadie, where the river ends and the ocean begins. The shad and the Gaspereau begin their journey upstream here. Each year, 5 to 10 million fish pass through the muddy waters of the Bay of Fundy. At its eastern tip, the world's highest tide empties into the Shubenacadie. The collision of water alters the flow of the river. This unique phenomenon is called a tidal bore. At low tide, you can stand waist deep in the middle of the river. But within an hour of the Bay of Fundy's tide turning, the water would be 2 stories over your head. As they move upriver, the fish cross a passenger heading in the opposite direction. A harbor seal, trying to catch its next meal. The path upstream is never as simple as point A to point B, and soon the fish hit a fork in the road. When these fish were just born, the smell of their original river left an imprint on them. Using this sensory memory, they chart their course home. Some shad and Gaspereau continue down the Shubenacadie, while others exit onto Stewiacke River. But it isn't long before the Stewiacke swimmers run into one of their most common predators. The angler. Here, along the Stewiacke River, they compete in what's known as a shad derby. Each angler is trying to catch the largest shad possible. The bigger, the better. The fish will serve a purpose. Nearby, there's an eagle rehabilitation center, and all the shad caught today will be fed to the eagles in recovery. The annual community event has been going on for 20 years now. The river always finds a way to bring living things together, above and below the water. Eagles usually catch their own fish, but the injured birds in recovery will be happy to receive a helping hand from the human world. Meanwhile, the shad along the Shubenacadie are facing a different challenge. This trap is called a fishing weir. It's set here annually to harvest the spring runs of Gaspereau and shad. Fishing weirs have been set along tidal rivers across the world for at least 10,000 years, though it's likely they've existed even longer. The trap works by blocking off a section of the river. The weir forces the fish to swim into nets placed underwater. At its peak in the 20th century, over 500,000 shad were fished annually in the Wild Wild East. But the bony fish is difficult to prepare, and it has fallen out of favor with the general public. These fish will be used to bait lobsters. But some fish sneak through. The fishermen can't catch them all. Angling and fishing weirs are carefully regulated in the Wild East. This ensures the shad and gaspereau can make it back to spawn. If they don't, it will disrupt the delicate balance of the river. In less than 6 weeks, the cormorant nestlings along Pictou Harbor will be able to fly. Confined to the nest, they rely completely on their parents. Flight brings them independence, but also a defense. The eagle has re-emerged to stalk the cormorant colony, and the parents do their best to shield the nestlings. The eagle takes off. Circling back, it snatches a baby cormorant. The cormorant species are built to sustain loss. The death of one nestling will not destroy the colony. There's strength in numbers. And here, in the Wild East, the future is strong for the double-crested cormorant. Back along the Shubenacadie, the gaspereau have almost reached the river's source, Grand Lake. The lake takes them all the way into Nova Scotia's mainland. It is the end of the journey, and it's just around the river's bend. The fish have fought their way upriver, found luck where others haven't. When they arrive home, they will spawn and welcome the next generation of gaspereau. But man has placed one final obstacle in their path: a pair of metal culverts. The water, tunneled through these two holes, rushes against the frantic gaspereau, bubbling, churning, spinning. But on the other side, calm. The ancestral spawning grounds of the gaspereau. And so the fish fight the culvert's frenzied flow. It's not easy for the little guys, and it takes a lot of gumption. But they swim. Just when it seems they've made it into the tunnel, the water's force pushes them back. One by one, the fish make it into the tunnel. The journey upstream is a marathon, and this is the final sprint. On the other side of the culvert, the gaspereau have arrived at the source of the Shubenacadie River to spawn. A single female gaspereau may release anywhere between 60 and 200,000 eggs during spawning. Of course, not all of these become little fish. Once born, things like water temperature, presence of predators, and food availability all influence whether or not larval gaspereau will grow big enough to make the long trip back to the ocean. When they travel downriver for the first time, they'll go through their own transformation, preparing their internal organs for salt water. The time this transformation takes is genetically programmed to be the same amount of time as their journey downstream to the ocean. And so, at the beginning of that next journey, this one ends. The Gaspereau and shad have ensured the future of their species for another year. Rivers are the bloodline of the natural world, pumping life through the wild, wild east. In their natural form, they flow and churn in relation to the formation of the earth. They bring together humans, birds, fish, all living creatures. In a few months, the Gaspereau and shad born this spring will need to make their first journey down the river to the Atlantic Ocean. It will be years before they'll swim in the Shubenacadie again. The cormorants in Pictou Harbor will fly south again this winter, but you can be sure they'll return again next year. They've made these waters their home. Life in the wild can seem like a cruel numbers game for species low on the food chain. But such is the delicate balance of the natural world. A river runs through the wild, wild east.